What's going on, everybody? It's your boy BJ, the DJ. You are now tuned into the rewrap. This is episode 17. Before we get started, if you haven't already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. The rewrap's available on all streaming platforms. And if you haven't tapped in with them guys at Over the Top with Chad and Tony, please do so now. You can catch me on there as a recurring guest talking about movies and nostalgic wrestling. Episode 17. Let's get to it. Now, it's been a minute. So about a month, I think, since we launched our last episode. Life's been busy. Most of you know I'm a DJ first and foremost, so this has been one of the busiest times of the year for me. So it's just been a little harder to get in front of the camera to do episodes, this, that, and another. So, but we're starting to slow down. So you're going to see more and more content coming from the podcast. We're going to actually start recording in bulk, and so we'll have episodes stockpiled. So I think it's been about a month since we got in here, and I've missed it. It's been difficult, I think, to keep consistency on this. We've just had a lot going on the last few months. I did the album in August. Wedding season kicked off. Fall wedding season kicked off in September, October, November. It's just been busy. I hadn't even been on Over the Top with Chad and Tony in a few months either, but I'm excited about picking that back up in December as well as things start slowing down. So, but episode 17, let's get to it. What I have in front of me, and I don't even know where this list came from, but I stumbled across this list about a month ago, and it is the 50 worst rappers of all time. Again, don't know where it came from, but I'm looking on this list, and there is a ton of disrespectful rankings on this list. Not to say that people don't deserve to be on this list, but just, I don't know. Half the people on this list, I'm not really familiar with much of their music. I know who they are just by name, but I don't know any songs that they've done that, not familiar with much of their music. But I will say this, though. There's some names on here that I'm not in agreement with whatsoever. I don't feel like they deserve to be on this list. And we're not going to cover this whole list. It's like I said, this is the 50. But we will talk about a few names on here and why I feel like they don't deserve to be on here. Number 50, they got NBA Youngboy. Outside of Right Foot Creep, I'm not really familiar with his entire catalog. I know he has created some songs, Right Foot Creep, and the only reason I know Right Foot Creep is because my son plays Fortnite, and that's the song that they do the gritty to. But I mean, NBA Youngboy, his style's not really one that I'm familiar with. Like, I'm not really, I can't say I'm really up on his music much. And that's not the old guy talking. That's just me. Like, I'm not a fan of like how he raps or his cadence, but I don't think he's the worst. I think he's moved units. And I think he's got a following. He's got sold out shows. He's really helped bring in this new culture of rappers. The young kids emulate and want to be like. And I'm not really familiar with it. Not really up on it and not really a fan of it, but they got him at number 50, and like I said, right outside of Right Foot Creep, I'm not really familiar with much of his music. So I will say this: at 49, they got Eazy-E, and there is no way, shape, form, or fashion we're putting Eazy-E on a list of the worst rappers ever. Now, I know he didn't write any of his stuff, but I'm not putting him on this list just because he is the godfather of West Coast rap. What he did, we would have never got NWA without Eazy-E. We would have never got Bone Thugs and Harmony without Eazy-E. We are not putting Eazy-E on this list whatsoever. He is a legend. He's an icon in hip hop. We're taking Eazy-E off this list right now. First and foremost, I don't care how you feel about, I don't care if he wrote his own lyrics or not. He had to deliver those lyrics, and as time went on, he got really good about his deliverance and his cadence and everything, regardless of who wrote what for him. And he sold millions of records and, was, again, huge of the West Coast hip hop market in the late 80s, early 90s. And again, brought us NWA, brought us Bone Thugs and Harmony. So first and foremost, we're taking Eazy-E off that list. Playboy Carti, not really familiar outside of a couple songs that were on the radio, like big hits for Playboy Carti. Not really familiar with much of that. 47, RZA. I'm a huge Wu-Tang fan, and I feel like RZA's more well known as a producer and as a composer, not so much as a rapper. Not to say his albums weren't successful. I'm not going to speak on RZA in a bad way just because, again, huge Wu Tang fan, big fan of his production, big fan of what he did with the Wu Tang Clan and how he handled that group and their business affairs. Yeah, not putting RZA on this list either. But again, I don't look at RZA as much of a rapper as I do more of a producer. And there's other people on this list that I feel the same about. Um, excuse me. 46 Nelly. We're not going to put Nelly on this list either. Nelly was right there with the M's and the J's in the mid 2000s. He's got a diamond certified record under his belt. Nelly couldn't miss for about a 5-year stretch. Nelly was the hottest thing going. We're not putting Nelly on this list. I don't know who decided Nelly was the 46th worst rapper, but we're taking him off of that. That's not no, Nelly. Like him or hate him, he had an impact through fashion, through music, and he wasn't a terrible rapper whatsoever. I don't know why he's even on this list. Iggy Azalea, say what you want about Iggy. Iggy had a couple big hits. Overall, you know, does she deserve to be on this list? Sure. Maybe not. I don't know. Let's see. 44, Future. You know, I know Future has a huge fan base. I'm not a fan of Future style. I do like a couple Future songs, but I'm not a big fan of Future style. I kind of feel like it was the originator of the mumble rap. I know other rappers are more identified with that type of genre, the mumble rap, but I feel like Future was the one that kind of fathered that and brought that in and really made that popular. He talked about the drug talk, he was big on the lean, so a lot of his music was influenced by that. You know, and I kind of feel like Future kind of came and went as quick as he had a good 4-year run, I think 4 or 5 year run, and now he's not as looked at now as what he was then. Other rappers have really taken over that spot. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Future. I don't know if that justifies him being on this list, but I'm not a big fan of Future. 43, they got Tom McDonald next. Yeah, he can stay on this list. Yeah, the shock rap. You know, I I'm just not into the politically charged lyrics. I feel like he does a little too much of the shock and awe. He really tries to make it, you know, tries to make it as shocking as he can. And I mean, I'm just not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan of him at all. I know he's got a following. I know he's got people that love his music, but I hate it. 42, Tony Yayo. Now I will say this: Thoughts of a Predicate Felon. I think that was the name of his album. Was a decent album, and I don't know if that was like a 50 album that was shelved and he kind of gave it to Yayo, but I mean that's the only thing he's gotten really to his catalog outside of some G Unit verses. Um, I I kind of like Tony Yayo. I wasn't a big fan. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a eh, I don't know. I don't think Yayo's a terrible rapper. Considering some of the other names on this list, I kind of feel like Yayo could have been left off. But it is what it is. 41, they got Designer, and I know I said I wasn't gonna look at all of these names, but I just keep running up there because again, there's some on here that I don't feel like belong on here. Designer, yeah, we can keep him on this list. Outside of the Panda song, in the Timmy Turner, I think it was. Yeah, he had nothing. Gucci Mane, now we taking Gucci off this thing too. Gucci in no way, shape, form, or fashion is a terrible rapper. And Gucci has hits. Even to this day, Gucci still puts out quality product. We taking Gucci off this list. 39, Petey Pablo. Now, I remember funny story. I remember getting kicked out of a club in Nashville. I think it was Graham. I think I got kicked out of Graham because we walked in. Of course, back then dress code was heavily enforced. Men couldn't walk in without their shirts being tucked in and all this other nonsense. I remember taking my polo shirt off and twisting it around my head like a helicopter because this song was on. We walked in the club. I remember standing on a podium or a platform or whatever it was and going off because this song was on. And the bouncers told me to step down or they were going to throw me out. I mean, Petey Pablo had hits. Raise Up, of course, was his big one. But Freak a Leak and others. I mean, he spent some time on death row there at the end. I mean, I think Petey Pablo was dope, and I think Petey Pablo really did a lot for putting North Carolina on the map. No pun intended, because that song. But yeah, I don't think Petey Pablo was a terrible rapper at all. I feel like Petey Pablo was really dope and maybe ahead of his time in a sense, but he came in at the right time and got hooked up with the right producers and made the right songs and made his presence felt. So yeah, I'm not leaving Petey Pablo on this 50 worst rappers list. We're gonna take him off of that. Young Thug, another one I'm not a fan of his. I know he currently got, freed from incarceration. So, congratulations, Young Thug. But as far as his music goes, I'm not a fan. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know. I just don't listen to it. He can stay on this list for all I care. 37, this is weird because they've got Flow Rider and Pitbull. Neither one of those guys are going to stay on this list at all. Flow Rider has, created some of the biggest club records there is. Low gets played by me every single weekend. And not just Low. You've got My House. You've got Right Round. You've got several. Like there's a plethora of hits that Flow Rider is responsible for. And Pitbull, I mean, there is no way we're leaving Pitbull on this list. Pitbull, I mean, there you can go down the list. Give me everything. Kulo, I mean, there's just hotel room service. There are song after song after song you can throw in rotation that would keep the dance floor crowded. We're not going to leave Flo Rida and Pitbull on this list. Lil Uzi Vert, yeah, he can stay on. Mike Jones, I like Mike Jones. I think what Mike Jones did for Texas rap in the mid 2000s when he came out and Chameleonaire came out and Paul Wall came out, it changed the game for Houston rap because all we knew about as far as Houston goes was UGK, and we knew about the rap a lot movement in the late 90s or the mid 90s or whatever. Mike Jones and them were a completely different group. The Slim Thugs, the Chameleonaires, the Paul Walls. When they came out, it was different. It was setting a different tone in Houston. So, and I think Mike Jones, and to his credit, Still Tippin's one of the best records to come out of Texas, right? And he had a run. Like his first album was a banger from top to bottom, and it was a double disc. I mean, I can see why they'd put Mike Jones on here. He didn't really have a ton of memorable lines, but I know he was a marketing genius because he would put his phone number on there, and there's not a person in this world that was a fan of rap music in that mid 2000s that can't tell you what Mike Jones' phone number was. So, I can see why they put him on this list. Like I said, I'm a fan of Mike Jones. I think, yeah, I'm not gonna keep him on here. I like Mike Jones. Loved his debut album. Not really familiar with anything he's done here lately, but he definitely left his mark. 34, they got the Yin Yang Twins. No, we're not. If you're talking about lyrics, I mean, they served their purpose. They were Atlanta crunk, booty shaking, club records, and they had a hit. They had a list of hits longer than my arm. So yeah, we're not gonna put Yin Yang Twins in the category of the worst ever. They were a part of some big records. 33, we got French Montana. Eh, I'm not a fan of French. I mean, he's done a couple records, but for the most part, I don't really know much of anything that French Montana has done that's been memorable. So, 32, we got Riff Raff. Actually, we can run up this list. 32, we got Riff Raff. 31, G Herbo. Yeah, both of them. Not really familiar much with what they do. I know Riff Raff and who he is, and he is, he's more of a comical rapper to me. I know some people really take him serious. I know he's good at freestyling. I've heard some of his freestyles he's done where he actually freestyled. Not a fan of Riff Raff whatsoever. G Herbo, couldn't tell you one thing G Herbo's done. 30, we got C Murder. We're not going to put C Murder on this list whatsoever. What C Murder did for No Limit, and there's a couple from No Limit on this list that we just going to call it disrespectful. We're not going to leave C Murder on this list. Life or Death, Balsalini, Trapped in Crime, like those three albums alone for what they did with No Limits catalog. He's one of the big three. He's probably sold more records. There's only a few people that sold more records than him on that label. So we're not going to keep C Murder on this list whatsoever because for one, he had a following, and two, he sold millions of records, and three, he wasn't a bad rapper whatsoever. Out of all the rappers on No Limit, C Murder was top three, top four, give or take. 29, Bow Wow. I mean, Bow Wow wasn't a bad rapper. Bow Wow just is pretty much known now for capping a lot. He tends to lie in most of his interviews and most of his social media posts. First couple albums, I'm not going to say he wasn't. I mean, he had hits. I mean, Bow Wow sold millions of records. He had a couple A couple really good songs. I think to me the most notable is "Let Me Hold You," and it was at a time and era when the R&B rap collaboration was really big, and he was still young enough to be. He still had that younger pop teenage audience following him, and a lot of grown women also thought he was cute or whatever. But uh, I don't think Bow Wow was a bad rapper. I just think he fell off really quick after a couple albums. Let's see, 28. They put the whole Saint Lunatics on this list. I mean, Murphy Lee was probably the best one outside of Nelly in that list. I don't think Murph deserves to be grouped into the whole Saint Lunatics group. I think Murphy Lee can probably be excluded from that. The rest of them, again, didn't do anything memorable outside of some guest appearances on Nelly's albums. Murph had a whole solo album that did well, and I don't think he deserves to be grouped in with that. So, 27, Chingy. Chingy had some big hits also. Chingy, I wouldn't say he was a bad rapper. His style was different. His style was different. He was a part of that whole, it was all a vibe. It was all a time. It was all an era. Nelly and the Atlanta rap scene was huge. And Chingy fit in well with that Atlanta rap scene. I know he was repping St. Louis, but he fit in well with that Atlanta rap scene. He was signed to DTP. He sold records. Holiday Inn was a big record. Like the way you do it right there, big record. So yeah, I don't think Chingy was a terrible rapper. Again, Chingy's another one I just kind of think fell off really quick. 26, Nick Cannon. Yeah, terrible. He ought to be higher on this list, to be honest. 25, Manny Fresh. Just like RZA, I feel like Manny Fresh is more of a producer than he is a rapper. I liked the intros on those early Cash Money releases where him and Birdman would just talk, and they would do like the fly talk where they would just talk about money, talk about diamonds, talk about jewelry, and just really self promote the label. And I thought those were really dope. Manny Fresh, would come in and be a part of certain songs. He was, big with the big timers, and they had big records. He wasn't meant to be a rapper. He didn't have to be a rapper. His beats were knocking. Whoever was writing for him and Birdman, they did a great job complimenting their style and what they did. Stay Fly, one of the biggest records of our era. Bad rapper, worse rapper. I mean, there's worse for sure. But one part is you got to understand that some of these people aren't rappers to begin with. So they've got people writing for them, but they still have to deliver what's written. And being able to do that is a big part of it. Like with Easy E, we've seen the clips where Easy was in the studio with Dre and he was having a hard time getting the line. Easy didn't write any of that. Easy was a financer. Easy was the behind the scenes guy, but they felt like the song was more built for Easy than it was anybody else. That's kind of how Manny Fresh got looped into it. Manny Fresh was a producer and an artist on Cash Money. He wasn't known as a rapper. He was known as a producer. He would give you 8 to 12 bars on certain songs just to kind of fill space. And it was what it was, but I don't think he was ever being presented as a real rapper in a sense. He was just more of a this whole song's a vibe. Let me pop on here and talk my talk. So yeah, I mean, much respect to Manny Fresh as a producer and what he's done with hip hop and especially Southern hip hop. I'm not going to put him on this list because I don't think he was ever built or designed to be a rapper. 24, Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy's had some big records too, and Soldier Boy's another one. Eh, if you look at Soldier Boy's catalog, he's got some big songs that have come out. Also, "Crank That Soldier Boy" is one of the best dance rap songs of all time. And he's also done a lot as a producer that people kind of tend to forget about. Soldier Boy's another one of them, just like Bow Wow, that tends to cap a lot when he talks. He loves being in front of the camera. But however, Soldier Boy has made a name for himself in the industry, and I feel like it's left a mark. So 23, Chief Keef. Next. I mean, we can keep him on this list outside of Don't Like. I know he was huge in like setting up the drill rap scene in Chicago, but I can't tell you anything memorable he's done other than Don't Like. And I didn't even really like that song until Kanye took it over. 22, Gunner. Gunner is one of the newer, younger rappers that a lot of kids were really a fan of until the whole Young Thug case, and then all of a sudden he's a snitch and they don't respect his music. But I mean, Gunner's got bars. I feel like Gunner's put out some really dope music. Wouldn't say I'm a fan of his, but he does have a couple songs that I like. 21 Lil B, yeah, don't know much about Lil B. Don't know much about Lil B. 20 Cardi B. Cardi B's another one. I'm not gonna keep Cardi B on this list neither, and I'll tell you why. Cardi B's got like 4 diamond singles. Cardi B has won Grammy Awards. Cardi B has sold millions of records. Cardi B has #1 records. Cardi B's another one that they say doesn't write her music, but she has to deliver it, and the way she delivers it comes off as very comfortable. She has a dope cadence. She is really embodying the lyrics and how she presents it. So I don't feel like she's a bad rapper. She's just a bad writer. She doesn't write anything. Like several on this list, they're not the best writers, but they have people that write music for them that they're able to deliver in the way it needs to be presented. And I feel like Cardi B is at the top of that list as far as who's on this list. So I'm not going to put her on this list whatsoever. Cardi B sold records. Cardi B's got a following. Cardi B's a dope rapper of the things that are given to her. So we're going to take Cardi off there. Blueface comes in at number 19. We're going to leave Blueface on this list. 18 Plies. We're not going to let Plies ride on this list either. Plies was big, for that mid to late 2010 era. Plies was big, Southern rap was booming, and Plies was a key player in that. He had big songs with T-Pain. Plies had joints. I mean, you may not like his cadence or his style of rapping, but it doesn't mean he was bad. So we're not going to let Plies ride on this list. 17 Benzino, he can sit there, probably higher on this list. 16 Yeet, I don't really know much about Yeet. 15 Kid BU, I don't know who that is. 14 Vanilla Ice. Vanilla Ice is another one. Didn't write much of his own lyrics. Ice Ice Baby, big song. Whole album, Diamond Certified. For that time and era, wasn't too many better. I mean, there wasn't many white rappers to go about anyway. And Vanilla Ice kind of gave us a bad name, but at the same time, he won awards. He sold out shows. He sold millions of records. Like I said, got a Diamond Certified album. It's hard for me to say Vanilla Ice is a worse rapper. One of the 50 worst rappers. 13, Birdman. Birdman, again, in that same group. A lot of the people they put on this group are people who don't write their own lyrics. Birdman is a hustler. Birdman has platinum records. Birdman has great songs. Birdman has solo albums. Birdman's one of the best CEOs in the business. Despite the conflict of him not paying some of his artists. I'm not a fan of Birdman's delivery. I feel like Birdman doesn't have a great cadence. So, I mean, them putting him on this list, I completely understand. 13, not a bad spot, I guess. If you're going to be on the 50 worst rappers, at least you're not the worst. But yeah, Birdman is what it is. Birdman's in that group again with Manny Fresh. Big Timers were a dope group. They sold millions of records, really helped hold down Cash Money when a lot of the artists were jumping ship. So, is what it is. Birdman's on the list. Number 12, Coi Leray. I like Coi Leray. I think she's one of the dopest up and coming female rappers in the game. Players is one of my bops I really like to listen to. We're not going to put her on this list. We're going to actually take her off this list. I know her dad's on this list, Benzino. He deserves to be on this list. Coi Leray does not. She's dope in every sense of the word. She has songs with busters. She has songs with respectable artists. She has bars. She has delivery. She has charisma. She has the look. Definitely taking her off this list. Number 11, Waka Flocka Flame. I like Waka. Hard in the paint, no hands. Waka's got joints. I don't think Waka deserves to be 11th on this list. I don't think Waka deserves to be on this list just because, I know he hasn't done anything in a long time, but those two songs there, Hard in the Paint, No Hands, get played a lot. Grove Street Party. We're not gonna leave Waka on this. We're taking Waka off this list. Number 10, Sean Diddy Combs. Yeah, he can stay on this list, actually. He can probably go up to number 1 for me because not only does he not write anything, he doesn't even really rap well. So take all the other stuff that's going on out of it. This is about just his ability to rap. I'm not a fan of Diddy at all. 9, Gutta Gutta. Part of the Young Money movement. Didn't really have much. He had a verse on, like, I think Bedrock. That's about the extent of his catalog that I know. 6ix9ine comes in at number 8. I mean, 6ix9ine. Yeah, he ain't good. He can stay on here too. 7, Smoke Perp. Don't know anything about Smoke Perp. Number 6, Lil Pump. For me, I'd put Lil Pump at number 1 on this list. He's terrible, absolutely terrible. So this is where it gets a little. This for me. This is where it gets a little weird because number 5 they got Lil Flip. I'm not putting Lil Flip on this whatsoever. Lil Flip didn't write most of the lyrics he rapped, and for him to come out with platinum album, 2 gold albums. This is the way we ball. Game over. Like, yeah, no. Flip don't deserve to be on here. Flip's catalog's impeccable. Um, Putting him at number 5 is really disrespectful. We're not going to do that. Number 4, OJ the Juice Man. Yeah, I mean, he's in that Waka Flocka Flame category with me. They kind of one in the same. OJ the Juice Man had some joints. He's definitely not the one of the worst ones on this list. There are several that are far worse. But I put him in that same category as Waka Flocka. He's got a couple bangers. Had a good 3 or 4 year run around the time Jeezy and everyone was popping and that type of music was being presented on the forefront. He had some hits. So, I'm not going to keep him on this list. Number 3 is probably the biggest sign of disrespect for me, and they've got Master P. This man sold hundreds of millions of records. Even as a rapper, he sold millions of records. And I don't know. It's never come out that he had a ghostwriter. I know his lyrics were probably very simple and very repetitive, but he still made multiple. He made like a 10 or 12 album run. Ghetto Dope, Ice Cream Man, 99 Ways to Die, The Ghetto's Trying to Kill Me, Game Face, Ghetto Postage, like The Last Don. You go down the list, P has consistently produced hit records and great albums. And I'm a huge No Limit fan, so there's nothing you can tell me about No Limit that I'm going to agree with you on if it's negative, because I think it's one of the greatest record labels of all time. It was one of the greatest 3 or 4 year eras of music where music was coming out. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So we're not going to let Master P sit here at number 3 whatsoever. Number 2, they got Lil Yachty. He can sit there and rot. And then number 1, they got Silk the Shocker. Much like I said about C Murder, there wasn't too many rappers on No Limit that helped carry that brand better than Silk the Shocker. You can say what you want about his style and how offbeat he could sound at times, but his style was very contagious. He was the poster child for No Limit for many years, from the Shocker all the way to Made Men. That 3, I think it was the Shocker, it was Charge It to the Game, and it was Made Men. I think those 3 albums in a row all went platinum plus, right? So we're not going to sit there and act like Silk is the worst rapper of all time when this man sold millions of records and helped carry No Limit to the success that it saw. And actually, for the B-side, I'll dig a little deeper into Silk and why I feel like he doesn't deserve to be on this list. Yeah, we're not going to do that. Silk is not the worst rapper of all time in no way, shape, form, or fashion. Y'all going to quit disrespecting No Limit, put some respect on their names. They helped carry hip-hop music for about a good decade. So, and then after that, Cash Money picked up the baton and took off running with it, and we're off to the races. But yeah, that's what I got. Like I said, I don't know where this list came from. 50 worst rappers of all time. I don't thoroughly agree with most of these on here. There are several rappers who were left off this list, and we may look at that for the B-side. Several rappers that were left off this list, and some of these don't even deserve to be on here. That's just plain disrespectful. So that's what I got. This has been the Rewrap. I'm BJ the DJ. I'll catch you on the B-side.